What happens when two of Hollywood's most beloved personalities sit down for what should be a lighthearted chat, only to have it spiral into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history? The tension was palpable. The words were sharp, and what started as playful banter quickly descended into something nobody in that studio was prepared for. If you want to see how this entire situation unfolded, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below, telling us whose side you're on in this clash. The interview started, innocently enough. Kelly Clarkson welcomed Kate Hudson onto the show, with her usual warmth and enthusiasm. The audience applauded as Kate walked out, waving and smiling. She settled into the guest chair, and Kelly leaned forward with that signature friendly energy she brings to every interview. "Kate, it is so good to have you here," Kelly said, her voice bright. "I have been dying to talk to you about your new project." Kate smiled, crossing her legs and getting comfortable. "Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here." "So let's jump right in," Kelly continued. "You've been in this industry for how long now? It feels like we've all grown up watching you." Kate laughed lightly. "Oh gosh, yeah, it's been a minute. I started when I was really young, so it's been quite the journey." Kelly nodded enthusiastically. "And you've done it all, comedy, drama, music, but I have to ask, and I think a lot of people wonder this, do you ever feel like there's pressure being part of a Hollywood family? I mean, your mom is Goldie Hawn. That's a pretty big legacy to live up to." There was a slight pause. Kate's smile remained, but something shifted in her eyes. "You know, I think people ask me that a lot, and I get why they're curious. But I've always tried to carve my own path." "Oh totally," Kelly said quickly, "and you have." "I'm not saying you haven't. I just mean, like, do you ever feel like people compare you or expect certain things because of who your mom is?" Kate tilted her head slightly. "I think everyone in every job deals with expectations, right? It's not unique to me." Kelly laughed, but it sounded a bit forced. "Well sure, but come on, it's a little different when your mom is Goldie Hawn. That's not the same as like someone whose mom was a teacher." The audience gave a scattered laugh, but Kate's expression had cooled noticeably. "I'm not sure what you're getting at, Kelly. I'm just saying." Kelly pressed on, seemingly not picking up on the shift in tone. "There's got to be moments where you think, wow, I got this opportunity because of my last name, or people are watching me extra closely because they loved my mom." Kate's jaw tightened just slightly. "Actually, Kelly, I've worked really hard to build my career on my own merit. Yes, I come from a family in the industry, but that doesn't mean things were just handed to me." Kelly held up her hands defensively. No, I'm not saying they were handed to you. I'm just trying to have an honest conversation about nepotism in Hollywood. It's something people talk about." "Nepotism," Kate repeated, her voice flat. "Yeah," Kelly said, seemingly encouraged that Kate had engaged with the word. "I mean, it's real, right? There are plenty of people who get opportunities because of family connections. I'm not saying that's you specifically, but it's a conversation worth having." Kate leaned back in her chair, her arms crossing loosely. "Okay, so let's have it then. What exactly are you implying?" Kelly's eyes widened slightly, and she glanced at the audience with a nervous laugh. "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking a question. Do you think you would have had the same career if your mom wasn't famous?" The studio went quiet. Even the audience seemed to sense that the conversation had taken a turn. Kate stared at Kelly for a long moment before responding. "That's a pretty loaded question, Kelly. And honestly, kind of insulting." Kelly's face flushed. "I don't mean it to be insulting. I'm just being real. A lot of people wonder about this stuff. A lot of people wonder, or you wonder." Kate shot back. "I think it's a fair thing to discuss," Kelly said, her tone becoming a bit defensive. "I came from a completely different background. I had to audition and fight for everything I got. Nobody knew my name. Nobody cared who my family was. So yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about how different people's paths are in this industry." Kate's expression hardened. "So this is about you now? You're comparing your journey to mine." "I'm not comparing," Kelly said quickly, though her voice suggested otherwise. "I'm just saying we had very different experiences." "Clearly," Kate said coldly, "and you seem to have a problem with mine." Kelly shook her head. "I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's worth acknowledging the advantages some people have." "Advantages," Kate repeated, her voice rising slightly. "Kelly, you don't know anything about my life. You don't know what I've been through, or what I've had to prove. Just because my mom is famous doesn't mean I didn't work my tail off." I'm sure you did," Kelly said, but her tone was placating in a way that only seemed to irritate Kate more. "I'm just saying, the door was already open for you. For some of us, we had to kick it down." Kate stared at her in disbelief. "Wow, okay, so you're basically saying I didn't earn my career." "That's not what I said," Kelly protested. "That's exactly what you said," Kate countered. "You just dressed it up in nicer language." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Kelly shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable but also seemingly unwilling to back down completely. "Kate, I think you're taking this the wrong way." "Am I?" Kate asked sharply, Because it sounds to me like you invited me on your show just to take shots at me. I invited you on my show to have a conversation, Kelly said, her voice firm. Now, and part of having real conversations means not pretending everything is perfect and everyone has the exact same struggles. Kate laughed, but there was no humor in it. Real conversations. Kelly, you ambushed me. You could have asked me about my work, my projects, anything. But instead, you decided to question whether I deserve to be where I am. I never said you don't deserve it, Kelly insisted. You didn't have to say it directly, Kate replied. The implication was clear. Kelly took a breath, visibly trying to recalibrate. Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. That wasn't my intention. Then what was your intention? Kate demanded. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you had an agenda coming into this. Kelly's face reddened again. My intention was to have an honest discussion about something that affects this industry. Nepotism is real. Kate, you can't deny that. I'm not denying anything exists in general, Kate said, her voice icy. But you specifically brought me on here and made it personal. You made it about me and my family. And that's not okay. The audience was completely silent now, every eye glued to the two women. Kelly glanced at her notes, then back at Kate, clearly trying to figure out how to navigate the situation. Kate, I really think you're misunderstanding me. Kelly tried again. No, Kelly, I understand you perfectly, Kate said, standing up abruptly. Kelly's eyes went wide with shock, and several gasps echoed through the studio as Kate reached up to remove her microphone. Her hands moved quickly, unhooking the small device from her collar. Kate, wait, Kelly said, rising halfway from her own seat. Come on, let's just talk about this. But Kate was already placing the microphone on the chair she had just vacated. She looked at Kelly with an expression that was equal parts anger and disappointment, shaking her head slowly before turning toward the edge of the stage. Kate, please, Kelly called out, her voice carrying a note of desperation. Now don't leave like this. We can work through this. Kate stopped at the edge of the stage area but didn't turn around immediately. The pause felt like an eternity to everyone watching. When she finally did turn back, her expression was composed but her eyes were blazing. Work through what, exactly? Kate asked, her voice cutting through the silence. Work through you insulting me on national television. Work through you diminishing everything I've accomplished. Kelly took a few steps toward her, leaving her hosting position. I wasn't trying to insult you. I was trying to have a meaningful conversation about privilege and opportunity in Hollywood. By using me as your example, Kate fired back. By putting me on the spot and questioning my entire career. I asked you questions, Kelly said, her own frustration beginning to show more clearly. That's what interviews are. I ask questions. Kate let out a short, bitter laugh. There's a difference between asking questions and making accusations dressed up as questions. You know that, Kelly, you've been doing this long enough. Kelly's face flushed deeper. I don't think I was making accusations. I think you're being overly sensitive about this. The words hung in the air, and several people in the audience audibly gasped. Kate's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. Overly sensitive, Kate repeated slowly. So now I'm overly sensitive for not wanting to sit here while you suggest I didn't earn my place in this industry. That's not what I suggested, Kelly protested, but her voice was less certain now. Then what were you suggesting? Kate pressed, taking a step back toward the center of the stage. Please, enlighten me. Because everyone watching heard what you said. Everyone heard you compare your journey to mine and imply that mine was easier because of who my mother is. Kelly opened her mouth, then closed it, seeming to struggle for words. I just think it's important to acknowledge different realities. Different realities, Kate echoed. Okay, let's talk about realities then. You want to talk about my reality? Fine. Let me tell you something about growing up with a famous parent. Kate, you don't have to do this, Kelly said quietly. No, I think I do, Kate said, her voice strong. Because clearly you have some ideas about what my life was like, and they're wrong. Yes, my mother is Goldie Hawn. Yes, she's an icon. Do you know what that meant for me growing up? Kelly stood silently, looking increasingly uncomfortable. It meant that every single audition I went to, people had already made up their minds about me before I opened my mouth, Kate continued. It meant I was either Goldie's daughter who was riding her coattails, or I was Goldie's daughter who would never be as good as her. There was no in between. There was no version where I was just Kate, a person trying to make it as an actress. I'm sure that was difficult, Kelly offered. You're sure? Kate's voice rose. You don't know, Kelly. You just admitted you came from a different background. So don't stand there and tell me you're sure about my experience when 5 minutes ago you were implying I had it easy. The audience was completely transfixed. Some people were nodding along with Kate's words, while others looked shocked at the raw emotion on display. Kelly took a deep breath. Look, I think we're both getting heated here. Maybe we should take a breath and restart this conversation. There's nothing to restart, Kate said firmly. You made your point. You think I'm a nepotism baby who got lucky. You think my career is less legitimate than yours because I had a famous mother. You've made that crystal clear. I never used those words, Kelly said defensively. You didn't have to, Kate shot back. It was written all over this interview from the moment you brought it up. And you know what the worst part is? I actually respected you, Kelly. I thought you were different. I thought you were someone who built other women up instead of tearing them down. Kelly's eyes widened. That's not fair. I've always supported women in this industry. Really? Kate challenged. Because right now it feels like you invited me here specifically to make yourself look better by making me look worse. Like you needed to prove that your success is more valid than mine because you had to struggle more. That's not true, Kelly said, her voice strained. I just think there are important conversations to be had about equity and access in Hollywood. Then have those conversations, Kate said sharply. Write an article about it. Do a panel discussion, but don't use your platform to ambush a guest and put them in a position where they have to defend their entire existence. Kelly's hands clenched at her sides. You're making this sound so much worse than it was. I asked you some tough questions. That's literally my job. Tough questions. Kate's voice dripped with incredulity. Kelly, there's a difference between tough questions and pointed attacks. You weren't trying to understand my perspective. You were trying to prove a point. Maybe I was trying to prove a point, Kelly admitted, her voice rising to match Kate's energy. Maybe I'm tired of watching people get opportunities handed to them while others have to claw their way up from nothing. Maybe I think that's worth talking about. The admission seemed to shock both of them. Kate stared at Kelly for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was quieter but no less intense. There it is, Kate said. That's what this is really about. You resent me. You resent my background. You think I don't deserve what I have. I didn't say that, Kelly backtracked quickly. You just did, Kate countered. You just admitted that you think opportunities were handed to me. Do you have any idea how hard I've worked? Do you know how many times I was told I'd never step out of my mother's shadow? How many roles I didn't get because casting directors thought I was just trying to be her? Kelly's expression softened slightly. I'm sure you've faced challenges. Don't patronize me, Kate snapped. Either you believe I've worked hard and earned my career, or you don't. You can't have it both ways. You can't sit there and question everything I've done while also claiming you're sure I've had challenges. The tension between them was electric. Kelly seemed to be wrestling with what to say next, her media training clearly battling with her genuine emotions. Kate, I think we're both saying things we might regret. Kelly finally offered. I don't regret anything I've said, Kate replied immediately. Every word has been honest. Can you say the same? Kelly's mouth opened and closed. I've been honest too. Have you? Kate pressed. Or have you been trying to make a point while pretending to be fair? Because those are two very different things. I was trying to have a real conversation, Kelly insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. No, you were trying to prove something, Kate corrected, and you know what? You did. You proved that even successful women will tear each other down if they think it makes them look better. You proved that no matter what I accomplish, there will always be people who think I didn't earn it. So congratulations, Kelly. Point made. Kelly looked stung by the words. That's not fair. You're twisting everything, I said. I'm not twisting anything, Kate said tiredly. I'm just done pretending this is anything other than what it is. You brought me on this show with an agenda. You wanted to have this conversation, so we had it. But I don't have to stay here and continue to be your punching bag. You're not a punching bag? Kelly protested weakly. Then what am I? Kate asked pointedly. Your guest. Because guests are usually treated with respect. Your colleague. Because colleagues don't ambush each other like this. So what am I to you right now, Kelly? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Kelly looked around the studio as if searching for help, but everyone was frozen, watching the confrontation unfold. I think you're someone who's being defensive because you don't want to examine your own privilege, Kelly finally said, and the words landed like a bomb. Kate's face went pale, then flushed with anger. My privilege? We're back to that. Yes, we are, Kelly said, seeming to find her footing again. Because it's real, Kate, and maybe it's uncomfortable to talk about. But that doesn't make it less true. You want to talk about privilege? Kate's voice was dangerously quiet now. Let's talk about yours. You won a major talent competition that launched your entire career. You had a platform handed to you on national television. Millions of people watched you every week and fell in love with you. You had built-in fans before you ever released a single song. But sure, let's talk about my privilege. Kelly's face went slack with shock. The comparison had clearly hit a nerve, and she struggled to form a response. The studio was so quiet you could hear people breathing. That's completely different, Kelly finally managed, her voice shaking slightly. Is it? Kate challenged. Explain to me how it's different. You were given a massive platform. You had producers, mentors, an entire machine behind you promoting your career. But somehow that's legitimate, and my path isn't. Kelly's jaw tightened. I had to compete for that. I had to win. And I had to audition for every single role I ever got. Kate countered. I had to prove myself over and over again. But you've decided that doesn't count because of who my mother is. Do you see the double standard here? It's not a double standard, Kelly argued, though her conviction was wavering. A talent competition is about merit. It's about who's the best. Kate laughed sharply. And acting isn't. You think directors just hand out roles to anyone? You think I got cast in movies because someone felt sorry for me? Kelly, you're being ridiculous, and you know it. Kelly's face flushed deeper, and her frustration was becoming more apparent. You're deflecting. We're not talking about me. Why not? Kate pressed. You made this about comparing journeys. You made this about who worked harder and who had advantages. So let's actually compare. Let's be honest about all of it, not just the parts that make you look good. I'm not trying to make myself look good, Kelly said, her voice tight. Aren't you though? Kate asked. Because that's what this whole thing feels like. You wanted to position yourself as the self-made success story and me as the privileged kid who had it easy. That's the narrative you were pushing from the first question. Kelly shook her head firmly. That's not what I was doing. Then what were you doing? Kate demanded. Because I'm still waiting for you to explain what this interview was supposed to be about, if not that. I was trying to have an honest discussion about nepotism in Hollywood, Kelly repeated. But the words sounded hollow now. By targeting me specifically, Kate added, by making me the face of nepotism on your show. Do you not see how that's a problem? Kelly's hands gestured in frustration. Someone has to talk about these things. Someone has to be willing to ask the hard questions. But why me? Kate's voice cracked slightly with emotion. Why did it have to be me? There are dozens of people in this industry with famous parents. But you chose to bring me on and grill me about it. Why? The question seemed to catch Kelly off guard. She hesitated, and in that hesitation, something shifted in her expression. I don't know. I just thought we could have a good conversation about it. A good conversation, Kate repeated bitterly. Kelly, this wasn't a conversation. This was an interrogation. And somewhere in your mind, you decided I was the right person to put on trial. I didn't put you on trial. Kelly protested weakly. That's exactly what you did, Kate said. And now you're backtracking because you realize how badly this has gone. But you can't take back what you said. You can't unask those questions. The audience had been silent for so long that when someone coughed, it sounded explosive. Both women glanced at the crowd, seeming to remember they weren't alone. That this entire exchange was being recorded and would be seen by millions. Kelly cleared her throat. Maybe we both said things that came out wrong. No, Kelly, Kate said firmly. You said exactly what you meant. And I said exactly what I meant. The only difference is I'm not trying to pretend otherwise. Now, Kelly's eyes flashed with renewed frustration. You're being incredibly unfair right now. I'm trying to find common ground, and you're just attacking me. I'm attacking you. Kate's voice rose again. Are you serious right now? You spent this entire interview attacking my credibility, my career, my family, and now I'm the one attacking you because I'm defending myself. I never attacked your family, Kelly said quickly. You questioned whether I deserved my career because of my family. Kate shot back. How is that not attacking them? How is that not suggesting that having Goldie Hawn as a mother somehow makes me less of an actress? Kelly ran a hand through her hair, clearly at a loss. That's not what I meant. Then say what you meant, Kate challenged. Stop dancing around it. Stop trying to soften it. Just be honest about what you were trying to say. Kelly stood there, and for a moment it looked like she might actually do it, like she might finally just lay out whatever was really behind this line of questioning. But instead, she deflated slightly. I just think the industry needs to be more fair, Kelly said quietly. I think people who don't have connections deserve the same chances as people who do. Kate studied her for a long moment. I don't disagree with that, but making me the villain in that story doesn't fix anything. It just makes you feel better about your own insecurities. Kelly's head snapped up. My insecurities. Yes, Kate said bluntly, because this whole thing reeks of insecurity. You need to believe that your path was harder so your success feels more valid, and you need to believe mine was easier so you can feel superior to me. That's not true, Kelly said, but her voice lacked force. Isn't it? Kate asked. Be honest with yourself, Kelly. Why did you really want to have this conversation? What were you hoping to get out of it? Kelly's mouth opened and closed several times. I wanted to shine a light on an important issue. By making me the problem, Kate finished. By using me as your example of everything that's wrong with Hollywood. Well, congratulations. You did it. You made your point, and you completely burned whatever respect I had for you in the process. The words seemed to hit Kelly hard. She looked genuinely hurt for the first time in the exchange. Kate, that's harsh. You know what's harsh? Kate responded. Being invited onto a show thinking you're going to have a fun interview about your work, and instead getting blindsided with accusations about your entire career being illegitimate. That's harsh, Kelly. Kelly's eyes glistened slightly, and she blinked rapidly. I never said your career was illegitimate. You said enough, Kate replied, her voice softening just a fraction. And you know what the saddest part is? I get it. I understand the frustration about the industry being unfair. I understand wanting to talk about nepotism and privilege. But this wasn't the way to do it, and using me as your target was cruel. I wasn't trying to be cruel, Kelly said, and she sounded genuine. Maybe not, Kate acknowledged, but impact matters more than intention. And the impact of this interview is that you've hurt me, embarrassed me, and questioned everything I've worked for. That's what people are going to remember. Kelly looked down at her feet. I'm sorry you feel that way. Kate let out a long breath. That's not really an apology, Kelly. That's you apologizing for my reaction, not for your actions. I don't know what you want me to say, Kelly admitted, her voice small. I wanted you to treat me with respect, Kate said simply. I wanted you to see me as a person who's worked hard and made sacrifices for her career, not just as a symbol of nepotism. But you couldn't do that, or you wouldn't. Kelly looked up, meeting Kate's eyes. I do respect you. Your question suggested otherwise, Kate said, and I'm not going to stand here and try to convince you that I'm worthy of your respect. I know what I've done. I know what I've earned, and I don't need your validation. The strength in Kate's voice was undeniable. She stood tall, her shoulders back, every inch of her radiating dignity despite the emotional conversation. I think we should end this interview, Kate said finally. I don't think there's anything productive left to say. Kelly nodded slowly. If that's what you want, it is, Kate confirmed. She walked back to where she had left her microphone on the chair and picked it up, holding it for a moment before setting it down on Kelly's desk instead. Thank you for having me. I hope you got what you were looking for. The words were polite, but the underlying message was clear. Kelly stood frozen as Kate turned and walked toward the exit. This time, there was no hesitation in her steps. She moved with purpose, her head held high. Kate, Kelly called out one last time. Kate paused, but didn't turn around. Yeah, for what it's worth, I really didn't mean to hurt you, Kelly said, and there was genuine remorse in her voice now. Kate was quiet for a moment. Then, without turning around, she responded. But you did, Kelly, you did. And with that, Kate Hudson walked off the stage, leaving Kelly Clarkson standing alone in front of a stunned audience and cameras that had captured every moment of one of the most intense confrontations in daytime television history. The silence that followed was deafening. Kelly stood there for several long seconds, clearly unsure of what to do next. Finally, she turned to the camera with a shaky smile. We're going to take a quick break, she managed to say, her voice unsteady, but everyone watching knew that no commercial break could erase what had just happened. The damage was done, the words were spoken, and the walk-off was complete. This was a moment that would be replayed, analyzed, and debated for a long time to come. So, what do you think? Was Kelly out of line for her questioning, or did Kate overreact? Drop a comment below and let us know who you think was in the right here. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more dramatic celebrity moments like this one.